How is everyone doing? So this is going to be the RaceViews video for last Saturday's practice race, circuit race thing. So we had a huge group going out there, like 40 something guys. So right now we're just heading out to the circuit. So we have about 10 to 15 miles out, and then like a 50-mile race, and then another 10 to 15 miles back. So the total day came out to around 80 miles for me because I was a little bit further away. But this is one of the first climbs of the day. Not super steep, so it's only like 5-6% maybe. So you can really, if you're strong enough, you can stay in the big ring. I like to spin a little bit more, so I like to go in the small ring, but either way, it's how it is. So right now we're just heading out. I don't know who that is that went off the front. I think that was Elliot maybe. Either way, we catch him pretty quick. No offense if you're watching. So yeah, I'm just sitting at like 300, 350 watts, just going easy up the hill, and then towards the end we like start to pick it up a little bit, gap a couple people, and some people this is a pretty hard hill for them, but I mean it's only like 2 to 3 minute climb, maybe probably closer to 2 minutes, and then you have Mr. Kalbfeld go off the front and put in an attack. And we're only 15 miles into this race, so the fact that this guy in the red, he ended up winning the race, spoiler alert, but the fact that he can just attack and be in a break and then get caught and then go on another attack and be in the break and end up winning in a break, it's just freaking crazy, dude. He's so strong, doesn't get tired. And so yeah, now we are just about to hit over the peak of the hill and just cruising down now. I think I got up to 45 to 50 miles per hour on this descent, so we were cruising because we wanted to make sure Kalbfeld didn't get too far away. We ended up catching him in a few minutes. But in this video, I kind of want to go over team tactics a little bit because not a lot of people understand exactly what we have to do. This was a little risky right here. I was trying to go around him, but the other dude was coming towards the right, so it was a little sketchy. But yeah, so team tactics. So the reason I want to talk about this is because in this race we actually set up 4 teams of like 5 to 6 guys. We ended up finishing the race with maybe 10 guys or so. But why I want to bring this up is because it's a major part of cycling that not a lot of people get experience in until they get to the higher categories. And when you get to the higher categories, you're just expected to know that. So there's not really, I mean, unless you watch a lot of pro cycling and get in depth with what they do, you're not really going to understand the team aspect to cycling. So what you want to do in a race like this, an amateur race, is you really want to just keep putting guys off the front that are they're strong, but they're potentially don't have like a sprint if you have a sprint finish, or they're not like a hill climber if you have a hill finish. You want to send them off the front and then put pressure on the other teams that don't get a guy in that breakaway to then pull that breakaway back. Because a lot of people, especially in the amateur categories 4 and 5, they want to win the race for themselves. But when you get to the higher categories, you realize that winning the race is if your teammate wins as well. Like, if you maybe just, your whole purpose in a race may just be to set the pace really, really fast at the front to tire out the other teams while your sprinter just sits in the back and chills, you know? So we're heading up the hill here, and we have a couple guys putting in some attacks on this hill. So we did like 5 laps of this circuit, and there you can see Colpville again going off the front, smashing it. And now we're just picking up the pace, putting a little bit of pressure on everyone. And I realize now that I don't have a guy up the front that's on my team. So now since I'm right there, I have to go, because if my team doesn't have a man in the break, then my team is the ones that are going to have to work to pull it back. Because, you know, like I said, if you have a teammate and they end up winning, then you win. You know, you are the winner of that race as well, even though you may be coming in 30th or 40th or freaking last place. Either way, if your team wins, you win. That's just how it is. It's not like football or baseball where, you know, it's like a collaborative effort and we all win together. It's like one person wins, but if that person's on your team, then you sort of kind of win. And if your teammate who wins, and if they have like a payout, if they're cool dudes, then they'll end up splitting the prize money with you, but sometimes it doesn't happen, because you know, you're only getting like $100 if you win, so you're basically paying for your race entry at that point. But that's really the part of cycling, and if you can prove to teams that you're a good workhorse and you can produce results, like your team can produce results when you're on it, then that looks just as good as you winning. I mean, not as good, but it looks decently well for you, that you can, you know, put in an effort and have your teammate win because you are a strong rider. Obviously it feels good to win. Everyone wants to win for themselves, but you know, sometimes you just have to work hard and shit'll come. So yeah, team efforts. So again, when you're sending guys off the front, if they are in the breakaway, say with another team, then those 2 teams that are back in the field don't have to do any pulling, because if the other 2 teams, we had 4 teams, so I'm just going to say other 2 teams, don't have enough strength to pull that breakaway back, then you automatically have a better opportunity to win the race, because the guys in the breakaway only have, you know, one other opponent that they have to out sprint. So maybe they're not the best sprinter in the field, but if they can out sprint the guy in the breakaway that they're against, then, you know, your team wins, and either way your team gets the podium. So that's what a lot of people in this didn't quite understand, is like sometimes you just have to sacrifice some guys, blow their load. They have to blow their load to freaking put pressure on the other teams back in the field to pull them back and tire them out, because maybe their sprinter has to do the pulling now, and now you're sitting in. So even if they do pull it back, now your team or the other teams are more tired. They've used more sugars. They use more sugar and more water than you have, and you're more topped up, fueled up, and you'll be able to out sprint them then. Simple as that. So now I believe we have a little bit of a gap, so we're just trying to pace line a little bit and trying to build the gap a little bit. I think we all know that it's not gonna stick, so we're not like going full gas. But if we did have a little bigger gap, this would be actually a pretty strong breakaway. Not gonna lie. So The other guy on my team is that guy up front with the white shoes, white helmet, right on the top left. First guy right now. So he's on my team, and we are probably one of the best or the strongest guys on for the flats. And then we also had a climber who was back in the field, which this route was pretty flat, so it's not really necessary to have like a full-on climber, but it's good to put pressure on the front on the hills because that's where a lot of people start hurting. And it proved on later on because he was in a break until almost the last mile or so, but he just blew up because he was with the other guy who was just blowing him out of the water. So now I think me and this guy in front of me, Brad is his name, are putting the pressure on a little bit, but we also, as me and this other, our climber guy, discussed, Abel is his name, as we discussed, we kind of wanted to save one of us two because we knew it was a sprint finish, so we wanted to have someone who's good at sprinting. So Kalbfeld, the guy in the red up there, for example, he's not really a pure sprinter. He probably couldn't, I mean, he probably could because he's just like a good bike rider, but his primary focus is just to outpower everyone. So he loves to get in breakaways and just hold that massive wattage that not many people can even pull him back, even with working with 10 other guys like we had to. We couldn't pull him back, and because of that, he won the race without having to sprint against sprinters who can put out more power in a shorter range of time. He's more focused on one, climbing, and just holding that massive wattage, which allows him to get off the front and stick away for the entire race. So yeah, and this is another benefit of having teammates in a breakaway. So you have your team of like 5 to 6 guys, right? So if you can get the best opportunity is to have more guys in the breakaway than, or at least one more guy than the other teams have. So say this is a breakaway of 3 guys, me, Brad, and Sean, who's the other guy on the ALR. I kind of switched that video, but either way, say we were the 3 guys in there. So the guy in front of me right now, if he was in the breakaway with me and Brad, there's 3 of us, and Brad and I are on the same team. So towards the end of the race, and there was a really good example of this in Tour de France last year. I know there was 2 guys, and it was like a sprint finish, and Peter Sagan was one of the guys that was in the sprint breakaway with these 2 other teammates who were on the same team. And one teammate just kept putting on the pressure, just attacking and attacking, and making Sagan chase it down, because if he didn't and that guy stuck away, their team wins. But meanwhile, the other guy that's on the team with the guy that is attacking, he can just sit in and rest. So he's completely fresh for the sprint at the end. So this team effort type stuff is really just a way to conserve more energy than someone next to you. That's really the whole point of teammates and goals. So at the super high pro tour level, world tour level, you have guys that are almost identical in fitness and weight on their bikes and pure power of sprinting, and oftentimes it comes down to tire length of who can win the race. So having strong teammates and going off the front and tiring out that other person is really crucial to be able to win the race, because I mean, it's really like a matter of half a pedal stroke sometimes who wins the race and who loses, you know? And by losing, I mean like second place, because second place is the first loser. Let's be honest. Let's be honest here. So right now I believe there's the winning brake that was off the front. So there was two guys went off the front, and then two other guys. One was Abel, who was on my team, and Luke, who was on the other guy that was in red before, who kept going off the front. They were with two other guys, who this is one of them on the left here, and so they bridged up to that two-man breakaway and ended up dropping those two guys, and now they are up ahead doing God knows how many watts, because we were just trying to, you know, pull them back. And so towards the end here, Brad and I are like, okay, Luke is obviously stronger than Abel, but, and no offense, Abel, but I'm just being honest here. I'm just being honest. Luke is obviously stronger than Abel, so Luke is probably going to win this race. So at that point, if you have, and it gets really tricky here, and this is why the World Tour teams have coaches and they have microphones to tell you where to be, or like what to do at what certain time. If you have two guys in the break and one guy on the other team is clearly stronger, and your sprinter is still fresh, you may want to pull your own teammate back. And why wouldn't he just sit up and then not work anymore? Is because if you don't pull him back, he still has the opportunity to win, you know? So Brad and I were sitting in because we're like, okay, let's tire out Luke and then we'll pull him back towards the end. So we're letting everyone else do work. We're just doing like soft pulls off the front and letting everyone else do work to try to pull him back. And then towards the end, hold on, what time is it? All right, I got like 15 minutes before I gotta leave. So towards the end, we were, you know, doing our hard pulls as well, just to try to pull him back, because we knew Luke was gonna win, and Abel ended up getting dropped, but we didn't. So it's really difficult, because sometimes you want to just, you know, have everyone else do work and then sit in. Obviously, this is not going to be like an actual race. If it was an actual race, we probably wouldn't have pulled him back. And see, here we're turning left, so we know this is the final little bit, the last 10 miles, because we just finished the circle of going right. So if it was an actual race, we probably wouldn't have pulled back, because, you know, let the other team do work and then we'll sit in and be fresh for the sprint if we do catch them. But since this was just like a training race, we decided that we really want to just, you know, get a hard workout in. So we decided, okay, let's see if we can pull him back. And we ended up catching Abel, but Luke was still off the front and ended up winning. So either way, it kind of screwed us. But as far as team tactics go, if you can end up getting a second place, it's better than risking it and getting a fifth place, you know, or pulling them back and risking getting a fifth place. So it's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of strategy involved, and a lot of it's just like conserving energy, and that's why you have teams in cycling, because you're putting out so much power that if you don't have like a little bit of dynamics, have one guy go off the front hard, tire the other team out, then you're going to be a little bit better position. And sometimes you don't get guys in the break and you have to do the work to pull them back, and that's just how it is. And hopefully you have one of the strongest teams so that you can pull them back, and then hopefully get another guy in the next break or whatever. Let's see, what else can I say about team-based racing? we could talk about lead out trains a little bit. So these two guys in front of me, 3PH Cycling, you see here, have a good team dynamic. So both of these guys are really good sprinters, and they end up both beating me, of course. But we can talk about lead out. So this is getting into the last couple minutes of the race. So we have this one climb coming up ahead, very short, maybe like 20 seconds or so, but it definitely burns the legs a little bit. So after that, we have a flat, and then we have a little short 10 to 15 second downhill, and then like 300 meters to the 300 to 400 meters to the sprint. So you really want a guy to lead you out if you are a sprinter, because again, it's all about conserving until that last second where you blow your fucking load and put out massive power to get to that line first. And this guy kind of ended up leading me out a little bit, even though he's on a different team. He tried to attack because he knew he wasn't as good of a sprinter as the rest of the guys in the field right there. So that's another strategy. If you are not like a pure sprinter, on the last lap, I'd say conserve until the entire race, and then the last lap can just freaking blow yourself up and try to get to that line first if you know you can't out sprint these guys at 1300 watts, you know, 13 plus 100 watts. So this guy, he told us after, he was trying to attack right here, but he was just like cooked after that hill, which makes sense because we have 75 miles in our legs already and decently fast paces. So I have kind of a bad position right now, and I should have noticed this before the downhill. So really, when you're a sprinter, you want to be sitting second, third wheel maybe going into the final 200 meters, and hopefully those two guys in front of you are your lead out guys, because the reason you want lead out guys is to just get the pace super hot so no one can attack or, you know, get around you really without putting a massive attack in. And then the guys in front of you just pick up the pace, and then pull off to the side. And then the next guy in line picks up the pace as hard as they can go for as long as they can go to get you within 100 meters of the line, and then pulls off. And then your sprinter goes and just kills it and makes it to the line first. That's why you want a lead out train, because you want that draft. If you are sitting in front like I am right now, I'm not getting any draft, so I have to work harder than the guys sitting behind me right now. And I know that, so I'm kind of sitting up a little bit and seeing if anyone's going to come around me so I can get a draft. And then I decide maybe I should just go, but then I see this guy coming around me, so I'm like, okay, I can sit on his wheel a little bit. So I'm sitting on his wheel, and then he sits up. So kind of lose my momentum going into this final sprint, and then he's pushing out the attack, and I'm like, all right, when should I go? And then he does a little final kick, and so I'm like, all right, should I go right now? And then I'm like, all right, let's kick it. And then I was a little too late because this guy just has a massive pop and gaps me, as you see. And then freaking Reed comes around me. 3PH boys win again. God, story of my life. So, but no, they're pretty good. Good guys. We just got a little banter going. And yeah. That was that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you for the next race. Thanks for watching.